Hello, everybody. Frank, take it away.
Well, I'm glad to join you guys here today and be part of this webcast, learning a little bit about storage and just kind of shooting it a little bit and seeing what's going on. So my name's Frank Certo. I've been in the industry for a long time. Early 2000s is when I started. Came from a sales background. Um, really saw myself as I graduated from college with a business degree in sports management. I don't know, being involved in running the Pittsburgh Penguins. But that didn't quite work out the way I was hoping for it. So I got into sales and did that for a couple of years, probably 5, 6 years. And then all of a sudden bumped into storage. And I started in Pittsburgh, where I'm from. And I've worked for a bunch of different operators, both in that area and in others. And got an opportunity through working in the industry as in the operations side, and actually came into the industry, interestingly enough, in mobile storage. So there was a time when mobile storage was on the come. This is the early 2000s. And it got so big. It started out as a little thing where at the SSA, they would say, hey, if you're interested in this mobile storage thing, we're having a breakout over here. And so they did the breakout session a couple times, and then enough people wanted to get into it that they actually created their own group. We were the Mobile Self Storage Association, the MSSA, and we had our own conferences. So essentially, Guardian Storage in Pittsburgh, now a larger company than they were then, had really established this in the self storage business. The owner decided, I'd like to get into this mobile thing. I think it's interesting. He did all the right things by getting the proper tools together and researched and found other companies that were doing it. They tried to bring somebody in house into the program. Nobody really wanted to take on the challenge. So they looked outside and found me, who had done built a sales company and done some things. And now here I was. So I came into it and it was interesting and fun. I knew nothing about storage, certainly nothing about mobile storage. And I was, in a few short months, um, the warehouseman, the driver, the salesman. We sold it from our stores. I was the kind of all everything. So we had a self storage business, and then me. I was the mobile storage guy. And we did that for a few years, and then eventually, mobile kind of flattened out a little bit, and we divested and got more into self storage. So I moved over to that side. And since then, I've always been in operations leadership. Currently, I work with the Storage Mall Management Group, which is based in Rochester, New York. We are an owner operator, but also a third party manager. And so the storage mall is the initial platform. A lot of the stores are in upstate New York. We have some in Jersey, Delaware, a little bit of Maryland, and others throughout the past years. And the president of that group, after 25 years or something running his own properties, decided third party management was really the wave of the future, and it was a way for him to expand his operation without having to, buy and develop all over the place. So we started to build that platform. Um, we developed all the operational side to it. It was then time to go out and find the sales side of it. At the time, we were in the process of out there looking to recruit in the sales side when I was introduced to an extended family member that happened to be an owner operator and kind of cutting their teeth in third party management in the Midwest in the St. Louis area, named Alex Erbs. And Alex Erbs happens to be the president of our company, Pat Bailey, his nephew. So Alex and his parents had gotten in a little bit of property management over there, and it started through Alex's relationships with various brokers out there and things. There's no REIT activity. There's none of these big third party managers in mid Missouri and in Wisconsin, nothing going on in some of these areas, but there's a lot of operators out there. There's a lot of owners that really don't know what they're doing. They have properties. They've been in the business for 5, 6 years. They want to get in the business. That goes. And so these brokers would come to Alex and say, hey, you want to manage these guys? They don't know anything. So you want to manage them? And he said, yeah, sure. So he started to build a little portfolio. At the same time, he was trying to be the operations side of the business as well. And that's something he was working on, but it wasn't a strength right out of the box. On the other hand, I'm over here with all the operations and I'm looking for a sales guy, and that's what his strengths are. So we got together and formed the Storage Mall Management Group. So we, as a principal, own probably a third of our portfolio. We've got close to high 50s in properties, and we manage about two-thirds of them. And so, over the years, the journey, I was on the state association board in Pennsylvania for a long time, and several people that are out there in the industry I've worked with, and even had a hand in bringing aboard. Christine Alvino is someone we hired to be our marketing person, and she was obviously a rock star and has gone on to do great things, and many other people. But that's someone that this group knows probably. And so we got a chance along the way, not only through that relationship and speaking at some of these things, to get involved in best practices groups. Our ownership formed a best practices group, which was in the beginning stages of maybe what would someday become much bigger. But not only did the owners from Absolute and Secure Care and TJO and Storage Pros, but also their operations people, which is what introduced me to John and Peter and all these other folks that would come along. Jennifer, I know her as Jennifer Barnett, now Jennifer Downer, who's roaming around out there. She was Absolute's operations manager back then, and it's formed, my whole understanding of storage. And now we're 20 years later, 15 to 20 years later. I still build on a lot of those core things, use those people every day throughout the year as resources. And I've seen the industry grow a ton. It's grown a ton. I mean, there was a time when it was kind of like going back to a reunion. Every time you went to a conference, there could be 1,000 people there, but I bet you knew like 400 of them.
Right.
Now I think there's 3,000 people, and although the network's grown, there's so much new activity going on. So it's more important than ever to be connected to people that know what they're doing and have good resources. And the best practices concept is really something that I believe in heavily and have tried to rely on. Like I said, the network has grown, and other people like Jim Mooney and Darren Kelly and others have come along the way, and you guys here and whatever. But that's my story.
So
Um,
what I've done, and I've talked to these guys that have been on here in different webcasts and everything, and we talk about network and resources, right? And a lot of them, a lot of the guys that come on, Cedric and Steve and Scott, and there's a bunch of others that pop in, and Jess pops in here or there. My brother pops in here and there, and I can't say more than anything else. The best thing you can do in this industry is to get on the phone and talk to somebody in the industry, network, ask them questions, find out who your resources are. And my brother likes to use this term, so being he's my mentor, I just sometimes regurgitate what he tells me. Is get in the right room of people.
yeah,
If you need to be in the room with marketing people, you shouldn't be in a room with owner operators. So you should be in the room of marketing people. So get in the right room, know your audience that you're talking to, know the questions to ask the people. So I mean, you said it best a couple of minutes ago, and I'm going to paraphrase because I'm not I'm ADHD, so I heard half of what you said, but um you know all the people that you listed off are the people that you want to know in the business, right?
mm-hmm.
You want to know who they are, what they do, and 99% of those people have already been on my webcast because I'm trying to introduce them to people that are new to the industry, and maybe people that see my post up and it goes, oh, look, it's Jim Mooney's on there. I've seen Jim Mooney 1,000 times, right? Well, okay, you have, but I'm going to introduce Jim Mooney and what Jim Mooney does to other people, right?
Yeah,
And like, and I get it, I get
yeah,
it, but find out who your resources are, find out what they offer, find out what you can offer them, like don't just call them up and take. Call them up and say, hey, I know you do this and look, I can't handle this deal, so I'll give you this deal. But I have a question about blah 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 blah. So pick their brains with some stuff and give them back something, right? I
Yeah, yeah. I think, sorry, I think if I could say, it's interesting because I learned in my sales business, and I trained this and taught this all the time, something we used to call steal the juice. And the idea with that was that if you have a colleague, somebody in the office that's really on a hot streak, if you will, there's a reason why they're on a hot streak.
right,
So I want to steal I want the vibe, what's going on, the attitude. And that's probably what it was, the attitude they had going on, whatever. And I wanted to steal that. So we come into this industry here, and what I was fortunate enough to work in my beginning days with an owner that said, listen, I want to run my operation with whatever the best practices are out there. So I want you to get involved. I want you to build relationships. I want you to get out there and go to these conferences and get on the board and ask people and build a network. So I was fortunate that way. That's not what every owner I've met and now worked with others that have different mentalities when it comes to that.
mm,
And so that's a challenge if you happen to be either in an operation where maybe the principal group is not as steeped and tied in, or maybe they don't have that more progressive attitude about things. This industry is so open and so willing to share, and it really and look, I'm sure there's folks out there and vendors out there that don't want to give you any proprietary information, but the point is, none of us have it. We're mid-size operators.
right,
Small operators don't need half this stuff because they only have 2 stores.
right,
If you have a big operation, you have such a corporate suite and so many proprietary systems that you don't care what the industry's doing anyway.
right,
For us mid-size operators, the ones in the 10 to 200 store category or whatever, we rely on each other. We rely on the technology that the industry provides us because that's how I can do my business, and that's how I can expand and offer services to my clients and figure out what the heck's going on here. So this industry is one of the most open and giving that I've ever seen. And you just, however, these days you don't even have to be on a board member of a state association. There's plenty of blog sites and podcasts and trade mags and other things where you can learn stuff and you can find people. It was not surprising to me that my first years reading the trade magazines, it seemed like Ann Ballard wrote an article every other time. I'm like, who is this Ann Ballard lady other than the weird lady with the hat? And then I met Ann Ballard, and she's exactly what it comes across in that article. And I had a long relationship with her over the many years, and she helped us out a lot. And here she is, one of the top people in, at the time in the third party world, in the ISS world. And next thing you know, she wants to help out little old me. So there's a great lesson in that.
well, that's the whole thing, and like it's funny because I'm looking at the possible topics, and we're talking about the first one right off the bat, the best practices and networking with colleagues, observations from the trenches, right? So like the best thing that I can teach somebody or somebody can help me with is how did you do that? Like, what was the step to get me to that next step, right? So I always talk, and people are probably sick of it, but I have certain properties that I have partners with, and my partners, which is John and Robbie, right? So I have my finger on the pulse to them, but I'm at 10,000 feet with those because I know
Yeah.
they're being taken care of, right? And then I have my own property with a separate partner outside of the storage industry, construction. You probably know Dave McKay. He's a construction guy from Texas.
Yeah.
But Dave and I are partners on a facility down there. And I have my finger like up the nose of this property, right? Because I need to know because I'm the one making the decisions on everything. Like if we go to do something on the other properties, I'm kind of brought into the conversation. Where here, I'm the one starting the conversation. I'm the one making it happen. And I like to talk to other people and learn from other people because they've already done this. You
Mm-hmm.
know, how many times do you have to stick your hand on the stove before you realize it's hot, right? So
Yeah.
to me, I don't even want to go near the stove. I try to foresee what I think may happen and then go, hey, I'm heading in this direction, or the property's heading in this direction. What do you think? Right? And it's funny because people will just, good, bad, or indifferent, especially in this industry, there's a lot of transparency. A lot of people tell you that, the truth, and they might lean you one way or another depending on who you're asking in what they do, right? So like if I said to you, "Hey, I'm having a problem with this and it's operations," you might go, "Oh, have you tried this?" and lean me that way. If I'm having a
Yeah.
problem with maintenance, and I talk to a construction people or a person who builds buildings or has doors for sale, like they're going to lean me over here. "Oh, well, maybe if you changed out the door." But the little bits of knowledge, and you talk about from the trenches, these people have already done it, right? So why try to recreate the wheel when you have all the
Yeah,
resources? Like,
there's right there's a lot of value, and this doesn't just happen in storage, of course. There's a lot of value in understanding this business from the ground up. So, one little thing that I always want to caution people that are, especially those that want to get into business in these last 5 years, outside of maybe this last 16 months, when storage is an anomaly in terms of its on the upswing of its success. Generally speaking, storage has always been very stabilized asset class. Whether the economy is good or bad, it performs. There have been times when there have been upswings. There have been a few times when there have been downswings, but those are very short lived. And that's usually something that after 18 to 20 months, we get over and get back to normal times.
right,
COVID 20 and 21 were not normal times. A lot of people get into the business in a time like that because they have money parked on the sidelines. They're looking for something to deploy it in, and they see storage and what's going on, and they jump into it. And they get into it kind of at this ownership or institutional level, and they don't really understand the business. Now, coming from the time back in before 2007, 8, the last time we had this little bit of blip, a lot of financial groups and lending groups didn't really understand the business. They gave money to people who they found out you may know how to build this project and you may have picked a great piece of land, but you don't know how to run the operation.
right,
And so what happened is we gave you all the money, you built the building, and now you don't know how to fill it up. At the same time, we had kind of this weird, crazy lending scenario. All those notes came due. We don't know how to fill the building. The lease up now is 4 years instead of 2 years or whatever. And a lot of those projects went belly up or fell apart. So the next round, the lending institution said, okay, now I recognize it's not just about building this thing, but it's about running it.
right,
So you better go find somebody that knows how to run it. And so I think, if anything, in sales, I was always, as I was a sales rep before I got into the management side of things, I said in the beginning, listen, I want to be a sales manager. That's really what it. First of all, sales was kind of not something I was super comfortable and confident with. I was not the most, didn't have the most confidence in myself. So I said, I'm not really sure I want to be a salesperson. I kind of want to be a sales manager. Like I can tell people what to do. I'm good like that. And they said, yes, I'm sure you are. But if you're going to manage me doing sales, you better know how to do it. You better have gone out and proven that you can hit the numbers, hit the goals, teach other people, etc. So I
right,
had to start there. And I had to prove myself and kind of get up in front of the room, in front of my peers, if you will, based on my performance, so that they said, this guy knows what he's doing. He's in the trenches with us. He's out there in the field with us. He's talking to people, and it's working for him. And if I follow what that system he's following or the attitude he has, I can have that same level of success. I come here to get into storage and I'm do the mobile thing. So the thing I wanted to do was just run the operation from the office. No, somebody's got to go out there and drive the truck, and it should be you, because when you drive the truck and build the boxes and train everyone on the software and be the warehouseman and all that other stuff and actually go on site and set the box and talk to the customer and tell them how it works, when it comes time to you replacing yourself as the operation grows, you know every aspect of it.
yeah,
That's the same in every business. And I think there's a lot of value in understanding the operation from its day to day, because there's a lot of nuance to this. It's very much a retail operation. Most people have heard that and understand it. But what does that mean? And day to day, the challenges that you see day to day, and as you graduate up the levels and you're now operations manager or vice president or COO or whatever you are of that side of the business, you're still relying heavily potentially on your clear understanding of exactly what's going on. How do you build the customer experience? What's that customer seeing when they come in? It's not conceptual. You've done it. You understand. And I challenge folks all the time, to get that perspective, because this is one of the things I see as the industry's grown, and it's grown. The capital groups have come into this industry with their folks and their money, which is awesome. But I used to, in the early 2000s, mid 2000s, talk to an operator who said, I've been in the business for 10 years. I've owned 3 or 4 properties and they're going really, really good. I dabble in coming to these conferences and learning a little bit, or my state association. I'm hoping this year, because things are really looking good, we're going to add a couple more properties. I'm talking to people now that have been in the industry for 5 years and have 60 stores. And it's like, where'd that come from? How'd that happen?
Right.
Well, because we got all that money. But what do we know about running a store now that we have 60 of them? Or we don't know anything. So we're going to go out and we're going to, sign up all these vendors and come to a conference and walk down the trade show floor and say, I'll take one of you, I'll take you, I'll take you, I'll take you, plug you into my software, and you guys run my business for me. Okay. That's okay. But when I want to, when I'm talking to their people, they're not really that steeped in in that day-to-day ops. So it's always a great idea to stay, no matter what level you are, stay fresh in the field. At the level I'm at right now, I'm the vice president of whatever I am. I go to the stores. I visit every single one of my stores. I visit all of my people throughout the year, and we're spread across 12 states. I have district managers. Their job is to go do the regular audits and all that stuff. But I show up at my properties. I meet with my manager. I was just in upstate New York last week, and I didn't go there and sit in the office and talk to the manager for 10 minutes. We walked the property. We opened doors. She had a maintenance issue. I went to Walmart and bought a chainsaw and cut down a couple trees in my dress clothes. So there's no excuse for anybody, because we're still out there doing it, and they see that and they say, this is a guy that understands how this place runs day to day.
Right.
And you add that to now the network of people that all came up the same way.
Right.
And that's where you get a lot of power in what's going on.
So I want to put out to anybody that's out there that's listening, including the guys that are on here, that one of the things that I have for 2025, my personal life's been a little busy. We're selling our house and buying a new house, and it's a little bit busy, and I'm a procrastinator anyway when it comes to doing stuff for myself. But I want to take the CSSM certification class, just so not so that I'm certified so I can put a couple letters behind my name, but because I want to know what my manager knows.
Yeah.
Like, I want to know it from the first, even though I use a third party management company, well, obviously I use StoreSuite, but even though I do that, I want to learn that step that I never learned. Like, I didn't come into storage by being a store manager, right? I came into storage, I kind of forcefully retired. And I had been bird dogging facilities for my brother, and I was getting into the underwriting and everything. And then all of a sudden, 2021 comes around. Pinnacle had a nice exit. I was able to retire from a 9 to 5, plus with my vision. I was able to start working from home and create my own business. But during all that, I jumped right into underwriting and acquisitions. Like, I didn't go from the beginning, like you're saying, I wasn't in the trenches. Now I'm in the trenches of what's out there, what's available, and what the prices are and what the prices are doing. I know all that part. But now that I own facilities, and I'm questioning, my management summary reports, and I'm questioning my management history reports, and I'm questioning all that stuff, and going like, well, what are we doing about this? And what are we doing about that? I need to go, all right, stop. Let me go back to the beginning, learn what that person that's sitting in the office does. Okay. Then
Yeah.
I'll be able to ask better questions.
Yeah, there's a lot of value in it because it's beyond what everything you just said is 100% right. But then there's also again, there's a level of respect that my folks have or have had over the years because they know that I'm not just somebody sitting, in the office and at the C-suite somewhere telling people what to do and where to go. I'm in the field or have been and work. They've seen me come. Now, look, at the end of the day, at some point, there's a whole group of people working that never saw me run a store, never saw me do sales. Like now it's just me describing and telling stories. And that's why I have to stay. That's why I do go to the stores today. And that's why I'm not just a virtual, face on the screen with these folks. Obviously, in 10 or 12 different states, we can't all get together in the office. There was a time when we brought the whole team together in the office in Pittsburgh. We got up to 25, 30 stores. Guardian today probably has close to 40. And they're spread out a little bit, but we used to bring the whole team together. I've worked for a group that would close their stores down for a day, half a day, and bring everybody in and give them lunch. And that's a great way to build relationships and really get down in the trenches and find out what's going on. But the bottom line to it is that's base of information helps to inform your decisions. I right now as a third party manager oftentimes have to work with an owner who bought a property because they're new to the game and their mentality was storage is great and if you own storage it's going to be successful, so just get in the game, just jump in the pool. Okay, well now I come to find out, look, there's some things you didn't think about, there's some things you didn't do, now you're here, I have to now try to make this work. And it's one thing if you acquire a property that's at 90%, which there's some out there, tertiary markets, rural towns, whatever it is, you buy this 350 unit property. It was never designed to have a manager. It used to have a sheet of plywood on an end cap that said Roy's Storage and a phone number, and you took that down and added a kiosk.
Right.
Okay, so fine, but there's some things to think about here because the modern day storage customer is expecting that you're going to be up to speed. So if you're going to run your property remotely, you better have more systems than if you had a manager because the manager can smooth over a lot of stuff
Right.
being there on location. And if I have a store across the street from you with a manager, I will beat you every time.
Right.
And so there's the industry has gone through these waves where now the big thing, and maybe we're cooling off from that a little bit, but there's no question there was a push there for unmanned. And I know some of the very prominent names in the industry were like, if you have managers, you're crazy. You don't need managers.
Right.
And there's been technology developed to get rid of these managers, and that's fine. But there is no such thing as unmanned. You need boots on the ground. You need somebody answering phones, and you need somebody that understands what's going on with the customers, how to build retention. The biggest way we compete with the big companies out there is the relationships we build, in the marketplace, with our community, and with our customers.
Right.
They still choose that place over a competitor sometimes because of us.
Well,
Location's location, and it's
person.
very important. But that personal side of things, the power the manager brings to that relationship is one of the biggest factors for why a customer chooses you and stays. I say it all the time to my people. When people are evaluating their own personal finances and situations, they say, of all the things in my life that suck that I might want to get rid of, you're not one of them. As in you, the storage manager and or the storage place, and we want to be that. So that's why we have a 35-month length of stay
Right.
because of the fact that people say, you know what? I got a lot of headaches in my life. These guys aren't one of them.
Right.
And so that's a huge part of it. And again, one of the reasons why we've been able to establish that is because we do have even our leadership is steeped in coming from the basics, understand store management, understand the day to day, and then we're constantly reviewing that with our team. My job right now at my level is beyond setting the culture. That's what I do. I set the culture for our whole team. Like this is how we will do business. This is who we are. This is the way we will do it. And
Right.
we work to find people out there in the job market that meet that and fit that culture that we can plug in. I also spend a heck of a lot of time learning from the industry, whether it's on calls like this or sitting through demos of different platforms and listening to the presentations. And I bring that insight to the industry because I want my managers to think beyond the walls of the building they're in.
Right.
They really then understand the bigger picture, and they can, at times it's important even for the manager to be able to step away from the building or conceptually step away, see the operation at 10,000 feet so they can work on their business instead of just always in their business. The in their business part's important and there's a lot to do there, but working on their business. So now we've got somebody at my level working on their business. I got a DM helping them work on their business. They're participating and working on their business. And it's a wonder why we continue to drive the thing forward from a service and revenue standpoint successfully.
Yeah. So
That's our formula.
one of the things when you were talking about being in the trenches and doing things and being that person, I most enjoyable thing I've done on couple of the properties was be down there at conception of the property when we acquired it. Like literally, we closed on Tuesday. I was down there Wednesday, right? Whatever property it was, and you know, pick the brains of the store manager that's there, and seeing the new managers come in that were, because a lot of times they change owners. I'm out of here.
Yeah.
It happens. And then during the construction phase or the cleanup phase, because I buy Class C properties, right? So there's always stuff that needs to get done. The most enjoyable time I've had in this experience of storage was physically being there, whether it was raking and picking up trash and putting it in a dumpster, driving a bobcat. That's what you want to see, a blind guy driving a bobcat. Hey, I own the property, so if I crash, it's fine. But like, you know what I mean? Like being there and doing stuff and being at that bottom ground in the trench, saying, this is my vision, this is me and my partner's vision, this is what our partners think the vision should be, and this is what we're planning, and doing some of that physical work along with the strategy behind it while you're doing it, right? To me, that was the most, like, I look forward to each property that we buy just for that. Like going through the acquisitions of it and thumb wrestling over the banks, and sure, it's challenging and sometimes exciting. Sometimes, I'd have a full head of hair if I didn't, to go through all this stuff.
Yeah.
But, I find that being there physically and mentally being there while you're there physically is the most rewarding. That's what I find.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. Well,
now,
it leads to also, like, again, one of the next topics we were talking about is we are right now as a company exploring all of the different management software platforms that are out there. Now, honestly, as long as the industry's been around and as established as it's gotten, there probably shouldn't be as many as there are. It's one thing if you have startups that want to service a small part of the industry here. I want to, maybe I'm at an institutional level, Extra Space at one time tried to bring their software program to the industry and kind of dumb it down for everyone to use.
you
Um,
all
yeah,
site.
when and center shift. Yeah. So but the fact of the matter is there are so many out there that probably tells you right off the bat that there's no real leader in the clubhouse. There was a time when SiteLink, for example, had a huge share of that mid-size operator market. And they had a product that serviced small operators too. They were working towards establishing things so they could grow with you. And so you had a partner in a company like SiteLink that as you added another 5, 10, 15, 20 stores, they could scale up with you. Well, the industry's gone in places today where there's a lot of new technology. And we're exploring because the current platform we use is not really scaling with our business. It's just not. It's lacking a lot of things. It just doesn't have the functionality we need. The service isn't there, the support isn't there, et cetera. So we were on this journey, and it can be a headache because there's so many of them. It's a little like splitting hairs because a lot of them are similar. But I think what's interesting is we're finding now that some of these more modern platforms, excuse me, are bringing in business intelligence and they're sewing it right into the platform and various other capabilities that back in the day you would have to go out and create these relationships with these various vendors and to bring that functionality to your business. I've always found over the years, and it still happens today, some of these vendors don't know how to run a property. Of course, they don't know anything about day-to-day operations. Some of them don't even know the storage industry that well. They might have had a product that serviced multifamily and they're trying to backwards integrate into storage because they see the opportunity.
Right.
And if you don't kind of understand from the ground up what you need, sometimes these products are new and you can help shape them. SiteLink was a product that we had a lot of opportunity to help shape. I mean, John and others did a lot of work. I mean, I contributed to some of that too to help shape reports and shape the revenue management. And it's almost like I've talked to John about this a couple of years ago, and he's like, I did so much work to help SiteLink build that thing. I feel like I need to stick with it.
Right.
Okay, fair
Right.
enough.
Right.
But the point is, so sometimes a vendor has a snazzy product, but it's not really, you can tell that it lacks the understanding of how it's going to complement day-to-day operations the way it really happens. The other thing, as we look across this management software, I'm finding today that with some of this business intelligence and when it's really set up on the correct platform, I was talking to a vendor not long ago who was really proud of how their management summary laid out and look at the reporting suite. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, I have to be totally honest with you. From a property manager standpoint, who's, not, but I keep that in mind as I look. These reports are strong. There's a lot of information there. From the corporate level, I don't care what your reports look like. Your management summary is irrelevant to me because if you don't have business intelligence platform where I can compare all of my stores, some of my stores, these units, those units, layer in things like tenant protection and or insurance and retail and some of these other things into it to find out and to make business decisions, then you're behind. You're just behind because I'm right now with my platform. First of all, my management software platform doesn't even have a good reporting suite. It's devoid of some of the basic information I need even to make sound decisions. Luckily, my experience kind of bridges that gap a little bit. But if I want to know something about marketing, I got to go over here to my website or I got to go to Google Analytics. If I want to know about my tenant insurance, I got to go over here to this dashboard and that dashboard. But all the information lives in the CRM, the management platform. Why can't the management platform produce that information and massage it in any way I want it to be without me having to go hire some full stack guy to code into a data carve somewhere? And at the same time, because there's a couple leading guys out there who have really developed a good business intelligence platform, but when you look at the front end that the manager is going to use every day, because the manager doesn't know about business intelligence and they may dabble in it, but it's not really necessary for them. The reporting suite does the job for that on-site person. But you can tell the front end isn't intuitive. It's not easy to figure out. It's kind of all over the place. So this is why, there are so many with, you think that if you were coming out with one today, you would ask all the questions and build the perfect monster.
Right.
But there's a lot that goes on. And I can tell you that some of the people we're talking to and some of these vendors that I've met with 3 and 4 times are saying to me, listen, bro, I don't understand why this is so complicated. I sign up people all the time that just got in this industry 5 minutes ago. And I say, that's why, because they just got in 5 minutes ago. They have no idea. And so I'm bringing all of this, from the ground up, if you will, experience into this and saying, I'm trying to make sure that we have a partnership that can satisfy us at all the levels. And that's the store level, That's the oversight level. That's the corporate level that understands what third party management is and can develop the type of reporting that I can send off to an ownership group. And they look at the report and they go, these guys know what they're doing. There's some sophistication here. This isn't some clown in Excel putting together a bar graph, which is what I do today, by the way, the best I can,
Yeah.
because I don't have the capability. So this is where we're at.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, it all stems from this,
I,
information that you bring from the ground up.
I understand. My underwriting model's in Excel, and it's very high tech in Excel, as high tech as you can get in Excel.
Yeah.
And then what happens is now, when I'm doing a portfolio and it's going to be three different owners selling me their properties, I'm thinking to myself, well, what's my return going to be on all these? Well, then I got to average them together, and I got to this and I got to that. And I was like, all right, well, you know what? I'm just going to build something else that pulls all that information out of the other reports because I already have them, right? And let me tell you, I've been dabbling in the AI in order to get some of this stuff done, right? Um, just
Yeah.
recent, just recently with so a lot of the reports that I get through your acquisitions are in PDFs, right? So they don't transfer over to Excel, so I can't like change the columns and say, oh, like, just give me this column. So now with the PDF, I have Adobe Acrobat, and it was like, hey, for $4.99 a month, you can utilize this AI. I said, well, first let me try it out. So I asked it a couple of questions, and it pulled up all the information that I was looking for, and I didn't have to scan the whole page. Like, I didn't have to scan all the like
Yeah.
down
Yeah.
to
It's yeah.
the point where I was like, what's the expense ratio on this P&L? Right. And it just went like, this is what you made. And it gives you, and then it goes, here's your expense ratio. And I go, oh, wow, they're doing it at, 42% expense ratio. And all right. So now I'm curious, what does my underwriting look like as far as expense ratio? So I take that, I turn it into a PDF, I throw it into the AI, and I say, do it to this report, and bloop, it tells me what my expense ratio is, right? So it there's a lot of tech. You're talking technology, right? There's a lot of technology that's coming in. A lot of it that's we the industry is starting to dabble in and pull a little bit of it out. But I do agree that there should be, I want to say, structure across the board when it comes to reporting. There should be structure across the board on how data gets inputted from the store level to the next level to accounting to, like, everything's piecemeal together, and it's piecemeal together for you, it's piecemeal together for me. Like, if I want to check a report, I can pull it out of SiteLink, but then if I want to put it in Excel because I want to do, like,
Yeah.
there's so
Yeah.
many so many
Yeah.
challenges.
And what happens is, again, this is again, as a mid-size operator relying on the technology oftentimes drives your business decisions and how you look at things. So, for example, when revenue management became a thing, and Center Shift had their model, which was a little more corporate driven from the back end, and it was a little more powerful than SiteLinks because SiteLink had a very basic understanding of revenue management. What we're going to do is analyze the unit type that this customer's in. How long is that unit? What is the current occupancy of that unit type? How long has that unit type been at that occupancy? That's going to affect how we move this customer's rate or
Right.
what we think about when we move this customer's rate. Okay. So then you start getting into programs like ProRise, Veritech, which bring other avenues. They have a little more forecasting involved, and they can look into your management software and say that I can see every year around this time you have certain demand for that size unit. So you can be more aggressive because you know what's coming. Or they can say that it's been X amount of days since you've moved a unit, blah, 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 and they can help you affect it. But then you look at it and say, does whether this person's on auto charge affect what I can do for them? Does how this person came to me in the first place and how they found me? Did they come in on some kind of a discount plan? Did they come in from a spare foot where they were looking for the cheapest unit? Did they walk in and pay a street rate, a higher street rate, a walk-in rate? Does whether or not they have tenant protection or tenant insurance, whatever you offer, and what level of plan, does that impact and affect their stickiness? Well, those are questions that maybe folks have always had, but they never had the capability outside of building this monster Excel spreadsheet, which is totally manually populated.
Right.
You were never able to bring that level of stuff before. For years, we did revenue management, existing customer rent increases based on the information we had in front of us, which was what's the current occupancy of the unit they're in and how long has it been at that occupancy. And all these other pieces of information were available. Nobody knew to think about it or how to put it, how to layer them in to the business intelligence. I'm sure just spitting this out, I've missed two or three other points. But the most thing is that's where the power of the information and the technology allows me to do my business differently. And I might find out that I've left money on the table over the years because I wasn't factoring certain things in, but I didn't have the capability of it. I'm not even going to tell you that I was asking these questions
Right.
5 years ago, eight
Right.
years ago, but I
Right.
could have been, and it
Right.
wouldn't have mattered because I
Right.
didn't have the capability. To
Right.
these days, because am asking these questions now, you damn well better provide me that opportunity because there's no way I can consider your software. I don't care how good you're a great person, but and you might a five-store operator might eat your program up, but I can't do it because I can't look at investors who've bought these properties and hired me to run them, who assume that I am the latest and greatest and I'm running them at the highest level of sophistication, say, well, listen, honestly, I'm really making a lot of stuff up here because I don't really know. You can't do that.
It's sophisticated wild ass guess, right?
Yeah, but at the end of the day, we're limited sometimes by some of this tech. And, I ask questions all the time. We use Go Local. I'll go to John and his team over there at Pedro, and I'll say, hey, I want to be able to this, that, and the other. And they'll go, nobody's ever asked us that before. So, we'll put it on the roadmap and maybe in 2 years we'll be able to do it. Or if 10 other operators ask that question, we'll give it a priority. It's like, okay, well, so we're limited by, kind of the movement around. And I mean, it's cool because there's a lot happening. There's a lot more things that can happen. But again, it
I called
stems from,
I had a technical issue with a certain CRM. It was just like a once I got in, things just didn't seem right, right? Couldn't find my reports, whatever, right? So I call them up and I asked them a simple question. I said, "Hey, do you guys have dark mode?" And they were like, "No." I go, "Are you planning on getting dark mode?" And they were like, "We've never been asked that before. Why do you ask?" I said, "Well, I'm visually impaired and the bright screens and the little thin letters that you have on there, it's really hard for me to read. You don't have dark mode?" Like as simple as dark mode. Like,
yeah,
you know what I mean? Like they don't take it in like, they're like, "Here it is," and I said to him, I said, "Really? You're telling me that your guy can't just go, hey, bloop, yeah, click this button for dark mode and everything just changes colors. That's
yeah.
all. Like it's a simple
And
request, And they were like, no, we never even, no one's ever even asked us that. And I said, oh, okay, well, coming from a visually impaired guy, man, that would be super helpful. Like if you guys did that, you probably have me a customer for life just because no
yeah,
one
you
else is
thought of it
doing it.
because you thought of it. You thought you had insight enough to think about that to service that customer. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and that's something. It's simple. I know it's not like it's not. I'm not gonna not use their system because they don't have it.
Mhm.
But at the same time, if they did have it, I'd probably consider changing. Right. Just
Yeah.
because it's easier for me to read.
I'll say one thing too. This is another thing that's an interesting. There again, how this industry's evolved. This whole concept of SaaS, software as a service. So this idea, is that the software company produces a product, they bring it to the industry, and you evaluate it. Maybe you plug it into your operation. but the software company has an incentive for them to keep innovating themselves. If you work with a company that has innovation as part of its business plan, then as they continue to, without your giving them ideas, maybe you are too, and other operators might be, but they're out there already in the industry or in other industries, and they're trying to figure out how they can evolve to stay on the cutting edge of this particular acumen. You benefit because as they evolve, you get the benefit of that evolution.
Right.
You signed up with them because they had product A. They've now evolved into product B, C, and D, and you get that benefit as a member, as a customer, because they already have the technology, they're already integrated, whatever. That's different than what some of these programs in the past were, where they said, here's our product and this is it. And if you want to bring us an idea, we have a form you can fill out. We have an invoice we can send to you that you can pay to have our people churn over that and decide what they want to do and if they can do it for you. And about 6 months later, we might have that capability. Then to come to find out that somebody down the street, an operator, it's a colleague of yours, asked them for something else. They did it for them. Really, really great innovation. I would love to have that. How come I don't have that same innovation? Oh, because you didn't ask. What do you mean I didn't ask? Like, what, I got to think of everything around here? So that's one of the things that these new companies, and I tell you, there's some in the tenant protection realm. There's others that are out there in the digital marketing realm that are really these software as a service companies, and that asking these folks what their innovative plans are, what their roadmap looks like is important when you're evaluating. Because I want to know if these companies have a desire to grow on their own without me having to bring them along. It's great that you'll listen to my insight because I have a lot.
Yeah.
However,
Sure.
you do this every day. I got a lot of stuff I'm doing. So
Right.
I need you to continue to keep, and I want to benefit as a customer from your innovation. And that's the way it's supposed to be. That's the whole SaaS deal. And so hopefully, uh,
How many times can you take the call of where do I find this report
yeah,
before they go, hey, we've had 15 people ask us where to find this report. Maybe we should put that on the front page, like something simple like that, right?
yeah,
Like and to be intuitive to a sense that they just create it out of reducing phone calls, like, you know what I mean, or reducing questions on their side. It makes them look more competent and more, uh, customer friendly.
yeah. I mean, I'd like to think that they're out there studying the industry because, at my level with my schedule every day and what I have in front of me, I have a certain capability of being able to learn new things and get new information. Well, they're supposed to be a partner. So they're out there also. And they come to me and say, Frank, you know what I just learned? I learned this, and I wonder if that's something that's interesting for your business. Absolutely, it is. And I'm glad you were able to attend whatever you attended to learn that. It's an
Right.
extension of my business. That's the reason why I'm partnered with you, for frig's sakes,
Right.
beyond just that you provide me some chat bot or whatever it is you
Right.
provide me.
Right. Not to mention you're paying for it. So I
Yeah.
mean, not only are we partners, but I send you a check every month. So,
Mm-hmm.
like I'm hoping that you're out there, figuring out new stuff.
And
So
that's the good thing is there are companies like that, and you do need to find them because they're worth investing in and tying into your operation because they will not only service you today, but they will bring you new ideas in the future.
So to summarize all that, anybody that's out there that's listening, interview the people that you're going to be using for whatever service it is. So if you're going to be looking for a technology company to, for a CRM, if you're looking for, tenant insurance, interview them. If you don't like the answers from them, interview somebody else. If you don't like the answer from them, interview somebody else, or get the consensus of the three, just like you would bid out a job. Talk to three different people. See what they have to offer, compare the prices, just like you would if you were bidding out a job. It
Absolutely.
can't,
Absolutely. And I tell you, I'll go one more step on that. Sometimes, I don't know enough about this part of the business to know what to ask. So it's not a bad idea, as I was trying to hire certain different people to fill a C-suite over the years or different things like that. I would have Cindy Ashby on the phone. Cindy doesn't work with me. I don't work for Cindy, nothing but a colleague. But Cindy would listen in on the call. She would add her own insight. She'd ask questions. She'd make sure that I wasn't missing anything
right.
because her level of understanding was higher than mine and her
Right.
experience was higher. And so I was benefiting and she was willing to do it, of course. And so it's another steal the juice
That's
deal.
that's resource. Like, know
Yeah.
your resources. If somebody's on the call, like Cedric, if you're going to call somebody and talk to them about third party management, I mean, I have a little more experience than you do. I'm not the be all end all, but there'll be questions I'll know to ask that you may not know to ask. So, and I'm not going to say I have all the answers, but at least this way you got a second person on the call that can help you out. I've done it with other people. I've helped interview third party management companies. My brother owns a third party management company. I know that company inside out and backwards and what they do for me as a customer. And this person that I helped wasn't able to use that service. I get for financial reasons, it was too expensive. So they were looking for something different. And I said, well, look, I know this person, that person, all based on location. And I said, call them and see what they have to offer. And I said, if you want me on the call, I'll even set the
Yeah.
call up. It doesn't matter. Like I'll say, hey, I got, look, it helps it helps my network name of saying, hey, I have somebody that's interested in your third party management company. Now you just have to sell it to them, but I'm going to ask you questions that they may not know to ask. So know your resources, network with the people, interview anybody that's going to be doing any kind of work for you. So all right, well, Frank, listen, it was a great conversation. We are about at the 1 hour mark. Usually people start falling asleep at this point, but
Yeah.
I really enjoyed the call. I learned a lot from your aspect and where and how you got into the business. How can people get a hold of you if they want to reach out to you and pick your brain a little bit?
Well, I mean, I guess my contact information, maybe you'll put it in this thing, but it's just Frank at thestoragemall.com. We are the Storage Mall Management Group. You can check out our website at thestoragemall.com. Our locations, as well as our third party information and just contact information is there. Um, but I'm always available anytime. I'm at a lot of the shows, state and national,
Yeah.
and love sharing ideas, love sharing information. So
Does
always available.
anybody before Frank gets off, does anybody have any questions? I know we lost Steve, but Cedric, do you have any questions? No, you're good. Appreciate it. Scott, any questions?
No, this has been great, guys. Thanks for sharing. Super interesting.
Yep, and Scott, I know we're supposed to have a call right here close after this, right?
Yeah, you free in about 30, or what you want to do right now?
I'd like to go right after this because I have a 1 o'clock too.
That's perfect.
All right, so I'll end the meeting and then we'll just start this one back up again.
Okay, sounds good.
All right. All right, guys, thank you so much. I appreciate Frank, appreciate your insight. I'll be posting this on my YouTube, all the Facebook groups that they can go and
Okay.
look for it and everything. And look forward to seeing you in the near future.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks, James. Thanks,
Thanks
guys.
all.
You got it.